In classic Hideo Kojima fashion, the new Death Stranding trailer raises just as many questions as it provides answers. Let's focus on a couple of details that might have slipped by, as well as some cool connections to other properties you may not have known about. In the trailer's opening moments, we see Mads Mikkelsen's character Cliff singing a lullaby to one of the bridge babies. These mysterious babies have been seen in Death Stranding's marketing ever since its very first announcement trailer, but we're still not any closer to understanding what exactly they are, other than the fact that connecting with one allows the protagonist Norman Reedus as Sam to use his abilities. We don't even know if they're naturally born or grown out of scientific experiments. However, if you pay close attention, you'll notice there's a spattering of blood on Cliff's face as he talks to the baby. While this could mean that he's recently been in a fight and the blood may be his own or an attacker's or victim's, this also could be a clue as to the origins of the bridge babies. Perhaps the blood is due to a recent delivery? Even more pressing, was Cliff talking to the baby because he's a father? He makes comments toward the end of the trailer that suggest an investment in the baby's development.
The whole wide world will be yours to explore. You'll be able to go wherever you want. Even the moon.
This raises some interesting narrative possibilities, as well as potential ethical dilemmas, especially if these babies are being bred to be used as instruments, which they definitely seem to be.
The time fall fast forwards whatever it touches, but it can't wash everything away. The past just won't let go.
Perched atop his bike, we see Sam staring at a gathering storm cloud. As the rain begins to fall and lightning cuts across the sky, birds fall to the ground. One lands right next to Sam, and just before the camera cuts away, the bird begins to decompose in the spot where it landed. This is a really dark and cool visual, but more than that, this quick moment ties into earlier comments made by Kojima regarding the world of Death Stranding. Specifically, it clarifies the concept of timefall. In a 2017 interview with IGN, Kojima explained that timefall is, quote, not of this world, while remaining somewhat vague on the idea that there may be a deeper connection between Sam and the timefall. The only hint that Kojima let slip in that area was, most people in the game are aware of the rain, and, well, Sam is quite unique in this regard. It's pretty wild to see the varying effects of timefall, which can't help but make us wonder how it will affect the player's progression through the game. It looks like Sam had better bring an umbrella. One of the more chilling moments of the trailer comes near the end, where we see Sam on his knees in what appears to be a desolate wasteland. Sam's surroundings are completely drained of life and color, and Sam himself has taken on a grey-blue hue, almost looking asphyxiated. Sam grabs a gun from the ground, puts it to his head, and cuts to black. What's happening here? In the IGN interview, Kojima mentions the idea that death is not the end in Death Stranding. He explained, "One of the themes of this game is life and death, so I want people to realize that when they die in the game, that isn't the end. Instead, players will be whisked into a purgatory-like area. Once there, you can explore the other side before presumably returning to the world of the living." What if this brief scene of Sam on his knees is him in this purgatory realm, battling with whether or not he wants to resurrect? Is that an option? And what would the consequences of such a decision even be? The music in the trailer is the song Path by Apocalyptica, which is an appropriately epic-sounding track that wonderfully underscores the mix of drama and action throughout. Kojima is apparently a huge fan of the Finnish metal band, taking to Twitter to talk about how delighted he was to finally meet them and use their song for the Death Stranding trailer. However, what you may not be aware of is that there is another version of Path, called Path Volume 2. This version, for which Apocalypta enlisted Guano Apes' Sandra Nasik on vocals, features a few choice lyrics that may be of interest to anyone who has watched the latest Death Stranding trailer. The lyric, "Are you still denying?" brings to mind the back and forth between Sam and the president at the beginning of the trailer. Sam insists that America is done for, seemingly accusing the president of being in denial. Another phrase in the song that seems to line up with the Death Stranding trailer is, "I want to live in fire," which immediately conjures up the images of Cliff standing amongst his soldiers in the middle of a fiery blaze without a scratch, seeming to find peace in the chaos of war. Path is a fantastic choice of song for this trailer, considering all of the interesting ways its alternate version could tie into the motivations of the characters. Death Stranding has a real star-studded cast, with two actors in particular being notable for their involvement in the James Bond movie franchise. Mads Mikkelsen was the lead antagonist of 2006's Casino Royale, playing the sadistic mastermind known as Le Chiffre.
Even after I slaughtered you and your little girlfriend, your people would still welcome me with open arms.
With his eye that wept blood and his taste for torture, Le Chiffre, as played by Mikkelsen, is easily one of the most memorable villains in the franchise's history. Léa Seydoux played Madeleine Swan, daughter of international terrorist Mr. White in 2015 Spectre. Madeleine was Bond's love interest, eventually riding off into the sunset with him.
I gave your father my word.
And why should I trust you? Because my father did?
Seydoux is currently attached to return to the role in the next movie, making her one of the few Bond girls to get a second appearance. Beyond this neat connection, it will be interesting to see if Mikkelsen and Seydoux take on similar roles in Death Stranding. Could Mikkelsen's Cliff pose a threat to Sam's mission? It certainly seems so. And where does Léa Seydoux's character, curiously named Fragile, fit into all of this? It's no secret that Kojima is a huge fan of the 007 movies, so it would certainly make sense for him to take some inspiration from them. It's not just Hollywood actors that are getting in on the action in Death Stranding. Kojima has also enlisted a few big-name Hollywood directors to play a part in his latest opus. One of them is Guillermo del Toro, the director of films such as Pan's Labyrinth, The Shape of Water, and the first two Hellboy films. In the trailer for Death Stranding, Del Toro is briefly seen as a character named Deadman. However, fans may not be aware that Del Toro's appearance in Death Stranding is only the latest chapter in a long-lasting friendship between the two visionaries. A few years back, Del Toro and Kojima collaborated on a new Silent Hill game that would have starred Death Stranding actor Norman Reedus. Though the playable teaser for the game was well received, it was unfortunately canned amidst rising tensions between Kojima and Silent Hill publisher Konami. Afterwards, Konami scrapped any plans to produce a new Silent Hill game. Between this unpleasantness and Konami's rather public hostility towards Kojima, Del Toro had some choice four-letter words for the publisher.
Your temper, it gets the best of you, makes you weak, makes you vulnerable.
Another notable director making a brief acting appearance in this trailer is Nicholas Winding Refn as Heartman. Yet again, there is a connection here between the performer and Hideo Kojima that folks may not know about. First of all, Refn is a massive fan of Kojima's work, particularly on the Metal Gear Solid series. Following the premiere of the trailer for Metal Gear Solid 5, Refn was quoted as saying, "Hideo Kojima is a master at portraying a wider and more complex view of human nature, combined with breathtaking action sequences. This focus on human relationships in the midst of action is something that can also be seen in Refn's work with films including Drive and Only God Forgives," suggesting that the filmmaker may have been influenced by Kojima's work more than a little. More recently, Kojima and Refn collaborated on Refn's new Amazon Prime series, Too Old to Die Young, in which Refn has apparently cast Kojima as a violent, sword-wielding maniac. Time will tell if this is Refn's way of returning the favor, as Heartman seems like a rather studious character in the brief shots we've seen of him in the trailer. Still, this is a neat little behind-the-scenes friendship that some people may have missed out on. While it's not entirely clear in the trailer, the company supplying Sam for his mission is called Bridges, and its name is seen briefly in a few shots. This is an interesting detail, considering we also know that Sam's last name is in fact Bridges.
I'll see you around. Sam Porter Bridges.
In addition to that, during his discussion with the president, with whom he appears to have a familial connection, Sam refers to her as Bridget. Maybe we're stretching, but that sounds an awful lot like Bridges, doesn't it? Well, Bridget Bridges certainly sounds like a less fantastical name than Psycho Mantis, but what's going on here?
That's right. This is no trick. It's true power.
This raises a ton of new questions. Is this Sam's company? His family's? Has he turned his back on them? Which is why he's reluctant to try to get into the field and save the country? What exactly is Bridget's connection to it all? Was the company started before or after whatever catastrophe caused time to become unwound? Were the Bridge babies created to help Sam tap into his powers, or was it the other way around? There are several moments throughout the trailer that could make one wonder just how much autonomy Sam has, as he certainly doesn't seem to want any part of going up against the unnatural forces at work. Why does Sam seem to be controlled by a company that shares his name? Is it just a matter of obligation towards his family? For such brief shots, the company name raises so many new and interesting questions. One of the most interesting things about Cliff, who we often see emerging from oil, and his soldiers, is the changes that their uniforms go through in this latest trailer. When he arrives on the battlefield around the trailer's halfway point, his soldiers look like they stepped right out of World War I, fitting right in with the trench warfare that follows. When they arrive on the scene near the end of the trailer, their garb appears more modern, suggesting that these soldiers may have been plucked out of different points in history. Perhaps the liquid is some kind of conduit for their travel from battle to battle. Are there places where the timefall is gathered, like rainwater in a ditch, allowing it to be used as some kind of portal? What is so important to Cliff that he might snatch these phantoms from different points in the time stream? One thing's for sure, we have plenty of new questions to ask while we wait for Death Stranding's release, and only time will tell if the evil genius Kojima will answer them in the coming months.
Kept you waiting, huh?
Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more SVG videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.